Welcome to Witnessing Christ. Witnessing Christ is a truth and love ministry podcast designed to help biblical Christians witness to their Mormon friends, family, and missionaries. For more Bible-based resources, check out tilm.org. We have all kinds of resources to support you, including classes, witnessing scenarios, books, and so much more. Visit tilm.org today. Welcome back to the Witnessing Christ podcast. If you happen to miss last week's episode, be sure to go back and listen. We talked to our interns about how God has been working in their lives this year, how their understanding of grace has grown, what they've learned through gospel conversations with Mormons, and they had some great encouragement for us as Christian witnesses. Today, we're going to continue that conversation, and we're going to hear about some of the more stretching and straining parts of their internship here and some things that surprised them along the way, and then hopefully some encouragement for you as you go out and speak the truth in love. So welcome back one final time, Calvin, Grace, John, and Charlie. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hey.
Hello.
Good to see your faces all together one final time here. So last time we spent time talking about the stories and the Bible verses that impacted you, that have become a part of your vocabulary and the work that you do. But I want to talk about what was it like working together as a team? Sometimes ministry, we think it's a solo sport, and we go out and we do things on our own. And one of the things that I've personally loved about this year is working with a greater ministry team, a group that has helped me sharpen my own skills, helped me grow in my own faith. So I want to hear from you. What's it been like working on a team? Charlie, why don't you get us started?
I think what I've appreciated the most was just how transparent John and Calvin were about struggles and challenges and just not having the answers. Because sometimes it would be like, it wasn't even necessarily, I don't have the right thing to say to this LDS person, and my faith is being challenged. Just be able to have those conversations and be real about it helped tremendously to move through those phases and get to the point where we can do effective ministry.
Another aspect of that was encouraging, it's just the work itself, not necessarily in some big spiritual way, but you're on Facebook all the time, or you have a writing project and you're hitting a writer's block or whatever. Charlie and I would bump together in class or see John at lunch and just sort of evangelically lament, kind of the struggles that we're with. Like, man, I'm tired of Facebook right now. I'm like, oh yeah, me too. And just that kind of level of camaraderie was helpful to know somebody else is here with me as well. And anyway, and then usually we'd have a podcast recording. And that was always a nice freshen up and get ready for the next week. But so yeah, just that's kind of a smaller thing, but also with the nitty gritty, not just the spiritual stuff.
Yeah, just logging in 5 minutes before on those rare times that I was there early, and just hearing people who fully get grace, these words of encouragement towards each other. Mark, you and Molly have been just so nice to talk to after a week of defeating conversations that can happen on Facebook. Not all of them, but it does wear down on you, especially just spending time with a screen and a keyboard. And then to transition from that to an organic conversation where there's just love in the air, loving kind words, that encouragement that you have with a group of people who are all doing the same thing, but also who all believe the same thing. And that is something that I really appreciated this year. It's been one of the crazier years ever. I'm sure for all of us, we can go and say the same thing, but whether it's just in a podcast or even in emails, just the words that we use are kind. They're intentionally kind. They're just really edifying. And that is something that I want to carry forward too. And it's just like, while you're meeting with brothers and sisters in Christ, it's a time to rejoice and be glad.
Yeah, I really appreciate what all three of you are really expressing, where it's been nice to be able to share the burden, but also the joys together. And we knew going into this year that the social media aspect of the internship would probably be one of the more challenging, both intellectually, spiritually, and emotionally, because it just takes it out of you. Over the years, Truth and Love has hired numerous people to be our social media messengers, and most of them no longer do that on a very regular basis. Many of them are now in different roles in our ministry because you can only do it for so long. Molly and I still continue to spend time doing it on our own. I probably spend more time in emails than in social media just because it's where I'm at in my ministry life. But this is why your internship isn't 4 years straight of doing social media work. Other thoughts on just the camaraderie of the team and what it's like working together?
I'm curious to hear from Grace. What was your experience popping in?
Yeah, it's a little different. You three see each other in person at times, and I'm kind of just hanging out by myself over here. So in some aspects, I think that can be a little more draining. It is good to hear how draining it is for other people, especially as I look at my past time cards and just see the time going down each month as I'm like, ooh, I don't know if I can spend as much time on Facebook anymore. And that's most of what I've been doing. But yeah, I think just, yeah, coming on the podcast and having time where we just talk and build each other up. And then also being able to say, hey, I'm busy this week. Can someone jump on Facebook for me and cover this for me? That's also been really nice and helpful.
Awesome. Was there anything for any of you that, as you're looking back, whether it was this time last year as you were preparing for the internship, or Grace, not quite as far back as you were preparing for the internship, anything that just has surprised you about what you've learned about yourself, what you've learned about ministry, just the internship in general, anything that was just surprising either in a good or a bad way, I guess I can put it.
Yeah, I can speak to podcasting just in general. This whole idea of we're going to write down and record our words in front of who knows how many or who knows how. This was a new concept for me. I, of course, had been listening to them, but never really imagined that I would be a part of one. And so in the past, I've tended to over prepare with a huge outline of things that I would like to say and touch on. But then by the course of this point in the year, it's been really amazing to see, well, it's just a conversation like it, and it's reached developing the skill of just holding a longer conversation has really branched out into other areas, especially looking forward to being a pastor now. This idea of just let's sit down and have a long conversation with a loose agenda. Here's what we're going to generally touch on, but you don't need to spend time worrying about what exactly you're going to say. That was surprising. Something that I enjoyed far more than I expected.
Yeah, love that, John. And I think podcasting over the last couple of years has really helped me too. Even when I teach a Bible class now, I don't go into it thinking I have to ask this question and this question and this question and this question. And they have to all logically fit together. But do I know my content well enough that I can guide a productive conversation, that I can allow those that are participating in it to direct it somewhat too? Does that make sense, to be able to actually have them say, this is what's important to me, this is what I want to learn about? So hopefully that'll be a great tool for you out in the public ministry, John. Other surprising things, either positive or negative? Charlie?
I don't know if this is where you're trying to go with this conversation, but my mind has been completely changed on artificial intelligence. I use it so much and so effectively for everything from writing emails to, in the last episode, Grace was hinting at the idea that we have a couple of people that we regularly interact with online who send you a novel. Might be understating what they send, honestly. You could publish that and they'd be a man of letters, that's for sure. And so instead of taking 25 minutes of Truth and Love's time and trying to sort through what it is that they're trying to say, to be able to throw it into ChatGPT and say, what on earth is this dude saying and how can I respond? And then to have put enough work into the chat bot to know that it knows like who I am and that I'm a confessional Lutheran and so forth. It's not always right all the time and I don't cut and paste, but to just give me an idea of what to say and how to say it is very, very helpful. Saved me a lot of time, saved Truth and Love a lot of time, and also giving me a lot more confidence in the ability to use technology as a tool for outreach, for evangelism, but then also just as a practical tool that can be used and utilized. It's part of stewardship, using all of the resources that we have available to us. And I don't know if you were joking when you first brought it up, is like, hey, I want you guys to be good at this. Actually, I don't think you were, now that I think about it. But I never would have imagined how effective of a tool it was going to be in this year. But it would bring, because all it's doing is it's taking all the other things that Lutherans have said about a certain subject and spitting it back at me once it knows that I'm a Lutheran. That helps too.
Awesome. I am glad that artificial intelligence and using it as a powerful research tool surprised you this much. I'm so thankful for that. And I think at some point in the future, it would be amazing to have an entire conversation on how to use artificial intelligence practically for witnessing opportunities. And I am a very creative person organically. And some people would say, oh, artificial intelligence is going to take your creativity away. I have found it to be the exact opposite, that it is like having three other very creative people sitting there with me engaging in a conversation, even though it's just one. But it feels like a whole table full of people kicking ideas around, or having this whole group with me constantly in my pocket or on a screen. So great surprise there, Charlie. Thank you. And anything else that you want to throw in there? Calvin, do you have any?
Yeah, this is also kind of, I guess, relatively trivial, but early on, some of the work that we do at Truth and Love, it overlaps extensively with the work we do as students. My entire life, I have been a student, so reading and researching and writing things. And I never professionally answered comments under posts as a student, but whatever. So then now doing this work of writing something, of reading something, of preparing for a podcast and researching it, but it's not for a grade. It's not to appease the mighty professor or teacher. It was weird. I don't remember exactly the first thing I wrote. Oh, it was the Why Trust the Bible article or something like that. And it was such a weird experience doing this and it not being for a grade. Like the goal is to write this paper or whatever for people to read it. Anyway, I didn't necessarily come into this expecting to have this transforming my expectations and my attitude with writing and reading things. But I did. And I like it. It was cool. It was refreshing to not know I'm going to have somebody detailed going through every single word and docking points and that kind of thing. It was fun. So
I do not think that's a trivial one. I think that is a great thing to bring up.
The goofy thing about that too is the question of like, when am I done? I don't have a due date necessarily, and I don't have a rubric. So yeah, when is this finished or when is it polished? And so I found myself just sending it to you and saying, hey, so
is this good enough? Yeah. No, and I think you expressed two really good things there for ministry in general is that when you're writing a sermon, you're not getting a grade from your people, nor can you say like, this is the definitive sermon that has ever been written on this scripture text. Like at some point, Sunday morning is going to come and you need to be prepared for your sermon in the Bible class. So there is a deadline and your good people in your congregations will let if you are deviating from God's word. So in a sense, they are grading you, but hopefully much more like Bereans than your professors. Awesome. Thank you for sharing all of those surprises. Throughout this year, we've given you quite a few different opportunities in addition to spending time talking to and witnessing with Mormons and Christians online. We've had you doing podcasting. We've had you doing some creative writing for our Jesus is Enough website, some work on putting together videos and reels. Talk to me now about a project or assignment that you either connected with that helped you kind of say, wow, I got to use a unique gift, talent, education, and experience in a new way. Tell us about what that was like. Being able to, you've been trained to be teachers in classrooms and pastors in pulpits, but we didn't do that this year. These things stretched you in different ways. Talk to us about those experiences.
The first thing I think we did was just reach out to the local Mormons in our community. That one, I just think it's so practical because it amazed me how quick they were to want to talk and how open they were to listening to what I had to say. And so I just really appreciated that going forward because you want to try to train members in evangelism, what a great place to start where you have people who are willing to sit down and talk to you. And you can have a conversation about them where you might not get to the point that you want to get, but guess what? You're getting the rep in with somebody from a different belief system who's open to talk to you. And so that was one of the first things we did. Calvin was able to carry that forward a couple times. Charlie was able to carry that forward a couple times. That's one of the things I really wish I would have been able to continue to do throughout the year. The last group that I reached out to never ended up wanting to set up a time that would work for them, so it kind of fell through. But that was something that I just really appreciated, just being able to go out, hey, nice to meet you. No, I don't believe what you believe, but you're aware of that, and you just still want to sit down and have a conversation. That's great. Let's talk.
John, I really appreciate you bringing up, we call it Please Open the Door, and a program that we're really all about here at Truth and Love. And you highlighted two things there where it helped you take the book knowledge and make it practical right away. And it also helped you connect with the Latter-day Saint as a real person rather than as those people out there that we're trying to serve. So thank you for that. Calvin, what was something this year that you especially connected with?
Well, I'm going with the stretched or challenged, maybe not connected with.
Yeah, go ahead.
But I came into this and I knew I kind of like to write. I've enjoyed that, writing sermons or whatever. So then that was easy. Like we had the various assignments over the year, and I enjoyed it. The one thing that I initially did just it was grit my teeth and do it was creating reels, creating little Instagram 60-second little things for I was on the Be Perfect page. I rarely looked at reels myself, and now I was tasked with, hey, make 10 on these different articles, and I ended up making more than that over the year, and that was tough. That was hard. It felt weird, and I didn't know how to do it, and I'm changing outfits between the, and it just was a whole thing. And it got easier. And then when I did some for Easter, we had an Easter themed one. I sat down and it took way less time, and I found myself kind of enjoying it at the end. But that first batch was just a beast to, yeah. So anyway, that really stretched me, challenged me, and now I'm okay with it.
And I hope that it's going to be a valuable process that you can take into your vicar year, interning full time, and then into pastoral ministry. So, Charlie, I know Reels was something that you wrestled with at first, and I think you've you found a rhythm now. Talk to us about your Reel process.
Well, I started out as like I don't have anything to say. Like they already know the Bible. Every time I bring up the Bible, they go, "I love that." So what am I supposed to say to somebody that I'm not even like in a conversation? How do I have a conversation, a two-way conversation with them without banging my head against the wall? And so yeah, at first it was just like trying to pull stuff out of thin air of like what would be a good get you for LDS people, and that just felt awkward. It just felt slimy. I don't think I ever even sent them to you guys. It was a challenge for sure, just to come up with something to say. What do you say to somebody that thinks they have all the answers? That's going to make them listen to you. And the answer is there isn't anything, if that's your goal. So what it became instead, and this was an accidental thing, Molly emailed and said, "Hey, we're focusing on these topics this month. Can you make sure that your reels, the things you're focusing on this week, and here's some articles?" And it was a little easier when we were doing truth and love articles then, because at least there was something that we were targeting. Like, so then we can look at what does the LDS say and how do we tie those things together, right? And so when I really hit my stride, I guess, was when I started just listening to what LDS people were saying and responding to it. Nothing more, nothing less. Not trying to twist it and convince anybody, not trying to like have a gotcha moment, not trying to incorporate the Book of Mormon into it or anything like that at all. And that has proven to be exactly what people want to hear and need to hear. And it has proven to be a very effective way to use social media, I guess. It was a total accident discovering it, but it's been a blessing.
Awesome. Glad to hear that whole process. And we are going to ask Charlie to help us with the next cohort of interns to get them stumbling out of the blocks a little bit more effectively when it comes to the reels. So, Grace, was there anything for you that, as you look back, stretched you, challenged you, either intellectually, spiritually, emotionally, or something that you were just really excited to be a part of?
Yeah, I think I'm also going to jump on the reel train a little bit here and say I also kind of enjoyed making the reels, and I don't know. I've done a lot with the Are Mormons Christian, kind of just taking information from like the big document we have and just transforming them into reels. And I don't know. I a lot of those videos get a lot of comments. I'm sure Charlie has had to deal with a lot of those since those are posted on the page he deals with mostly. But I mean, so there's that, taking them from established material. But I've also enjoyed kind of having the creative part of coming up with my own stuff in like a 30-second or sometimes a little over a minute long video and trying to communicate that way. So that's been a lot of fun. But as far as intellectually, emotionally, spiritually stretching me, I think one of the biggest things is, and no matter how you're hearing it, just hearing from so many people that you're wrong, that's that's been hard. And I don't know if I can really separate the emotional, spiritual components about it because, if you're talking to an atheist, then they're telling you that your logic is wrong or that what you believe is morally wrong or just so there's that spiritual, emotional aspect there. Or if it's an LDS person that you don't understand correctly, that you don't know enough. And then it's spiritually stretching to double down on like, no, God is sufficient and the Bible is sufficient and just the emotional aspect of being told you're wrong all the time and just knowing how to respond to all of that in its various forms because it comes across differently, but a lot of times it's the same message.
You're right, Grace. I've had the opportunity to work in the comments section of a bunch of your videos, and this is this is going to be blunt. It shocked me how different the responses were to your videos versus Kelvin's videos and my videos. And it's not a surprise. It shouldn't be a surprise, I should say, based on what we know about what the church teaches. But when Kelvin's videos get posted, when my videos get posted, people engage with the content. Whether they agree or disagree, they engage with the content. When Grace would post a video, I almost 100% of the time, somebody jumped in and made a comment about like, who is this woman? By whose authority is she speaking? Or just jumping in on, you have, like, I would have to listen to anything you say because you don't, even saying things like she doesn't have the priesthood, where's her man, things like that, which was like, one, it's a vile way to look at women. And second, part of me doesn't want to say it, but it is a natural downstream effect of the LDS doctrine of the priesthood, is that these are second class citizens. These are people who do not have a voice. These are people who are the property of their husbands and nothing more, really. They can't even have access to God unless they do it through their husband or their father. You take that and compare that with our Savior, who, when he rose from the dead, who does he appear to first? The faithful women who have served him, who we are given no indication that they had to like serve him through Judas, who has the money keeper or something like that, or they had to be filtered through Peter. That's one of my very few criticisms, even of like the Chosen, which it does have a little bit of a Mormon tinge to it, is to a surprising degree, the women like work through the disciples to get to Jesus at times and that kind of stuff, right? It's not blatant, but it's there. And we get a lot of comments, even from other Christians, of like, leave well enough alone. They have a little bit of Jesus. Just let them be. They're just like us, so forth. This is not the gospel. The gospel doesn't take anyone, regardless of their gender, and put them in a corner and say, shut up, you don't get to talk. That is not the Jesus of the Bible, and that is not the God who created women in his own image the same way that he created man in his image. So we can't just leave well enough alone, because this is not the truth. And the truth is what sets people free. So, I mean, there were a couple times where I was thankful I was the one responding to the comments and not you, Grace. And I guess I'm sorry for some of the things that some people put in there. And also, go get them. Go get them.
Boy, Charlie, I guess that was an emotionally stretching thing for you to have to respond to all this. Calvin or John, was there anything for either of you that really stretched you spiritually, emotionally over this year?
Taking a deep dive in the Doctrine and Covenants when I was taking a look at the Imago Dei and then
The Image of God articles. Yep.
the Image of God articles, and I was kind of looking at just some doctrine that spits right against what I believe. And then I ran across a couple of Joseph Smith writings that really kind of, like, it was shocking for me to read. I had to like tell the people that were around me, like, this is what he said. We shall be like God. And it's just that some of it was just really hard intellectually to comprehend, like, what exactly are they saying in the Doctrine and Covenants? What exactly is being conveyed by these words? What possesses someone to write some of these things that are so against what I believe? So that was just a period of time that it was just really straining for me. And then, yeah, like the last 3 months, I haven't been very active on social media. It just totally was too much for me to handle. I spiritually was like, this is not being as effective anymore. I'm not being edified by this anymore. And so there was times where I probably should have been reaching out for some more encouragement, but I was just focused on the other things on my plate at the time. And so it was just kind of draining to go through that. So, and at the same time, it's like oftentimes when I would go on social media, it would be at the end of a day after I finish homework and my wife is playing with my son. I know he's going to go down in like an hour, and I'm just like, all right, just one more conversation, just a little bit more time. I got to finish up this last conversation. And then somebody says something like, all right, I'm going to invest more time into this conversation because that's appalling. And so I had to just manage it, and probably was a little bit more reactive instead of being proactive, which is what I would
Yeah.
tell the next interns.
I appreciate the transparency, John, there of just the balancing act of ministry and making sure that we're caring for ourselves spiritually, physically, and emotionally, and then spending time with the people that we are serving, but also then with our families as well. And that's something that I hope this internship, as well as your time at the seminary and in college, really prepares you for. And sometimes you don't actually get that until you're doing actual ministry rather than just sitting in the classroom where, yep, I've got to get this paper done. Okay. But this is real life now. It's not just a grade, it's someone's eternity that is at stake. Calvin, was there anything final for you?
Yeah, one thing, John, your description of sitting on the couch, your wife's with your kid, like it was freaky how accurate. I experienced the exact same thing with my wife with my son. Like this, like I'm sitting there getting that last hour in, and then just getting wrapped up and pulled along. Anyway, so I just noticed that was funny that you had a camera in our living room, and you described the same thing I've experienced. But one thing, just to add something a little different, was it took very intentional effort to not bring in all the baggage of previous conversations into the new person who's reaching out or talking with you, especially because the topic matter, or the topics we're discussing are generally the same because it's the same ad campaign or that kind of thing. So a lot of the things they say, the people will say, will be quite similar. And also they all come from the exact same background with a very similar culture. And you can kind of predict what they're going to say based off of what you say over time. And anyway, so it was hard. It took very intentional effort to see each person as an individual. And if I was maybe feeling a little bitter because of something that somebody said, to set that aside and start fresh and not respond with anyway, not respond with that person in mind who was maybe aggressive. And anyway, that was challenging, especially because it's all names on a screen, so that it's hard to see the person behind that. So, yeah, that was
Oh,
challenging intellectually and emotionally for sure.
thanks for sharing that. I think that's another powerful takeaway. Any final thoughts on that topic? Charlie, do you have one?
Think also I think it's in the same realm as that. It's just the radical cultural difference between the LDS people that we're working with and both our culture, like us speaking, like our church culture, and just like not understand. Like it was a big hurdle for me to get over to just understand the culture of the people that I'm talking to, and I've found that the better I understand the culture that they're speaking from, the easier it is for me to talk to them. And then also just straight up acknowledging I am not LDS. I've never been LDS. I don't plan on becoming LDS. I'm a confessional Christian, and that's where I'm coming from. So let's frame the conversations that way instead of trying to be like a covert, like they're
Oh,
not going to know. They know immediately that I'm not LDS. So it's not effective or wise or probably even morally straightforward,
beneficial.
I
Yeah,
guess. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. We have really talked through a lot of awesome topics in these two episodes, and I'm so thankful for the work that God has been doing in your lives in this year. I want to, as we're wrapping up today, to really look at the next chapters of your life and ministry. So I'd like each of you just to share with our listening audience very briefly what's next for you and what you're taking into that chapter of life from your year here at Truth and Love. John.
So my wife and I are looking at houses in Minnesota. That's where we're gonna set up camp for the next few years, foreseeable future, as the new pastor of a church over there called Salem. Really looking
And that's in
forward.
Stillwater, Minnesota.
Stillwater, yep, Stillwater, Minnesota. It looks like a beautiful town, really, right on St. Croix River. Very, very, very just amazed at how God has just changed my mind, really, about this whole idea of the call from when I started out on this track to be a pastor to getting that call to even today. It still just kind of amazes me how he's been the one who's been driving me forward in this ministry. And so, ready to just give it my diligence to be faithful to the word, to spread the gospel. And the thing I want to carry forward that has really changed my whole view of my faith in particular is one of the first things we looked at, those four key concepts: sin, grace, faith, and works. They're on almost every page of scripture you read. If you have a good understanding, if you take the time to really wrestle with those concepts and to figure out how they impact your view of God and how God views you, um, man, just the floodgates of opportunities open up in your evangelism career, your outreach, your testimony. So I'm just going to continue
Yeah,
to,
and hopefully you're preaching and teaching as well. Yeah, with those four.
yeah, just really hope to continue to develop those key concepts in my ministry, figure out how to teach them to my members so that's very clear for them so they can see when one gets overemphasized, particularly works over grace, and how do you combat that? How do you tackle that? And then the last thing is just to view Mormons, but even those who aren't a part of the LDS Church, just view them as victims. Well, they're not the enemies. They are people who are lost, who the angels in heaven are waiting to rejoice at their return to this knowledge of a God who loves them, who died for them, and so all those things.
Awesome. Blessings on those next steps. Grace, what's next for you?
Yeah, so I just got my call to Morton Grove, Illinois, which I have to say, I went to grade school in Illinois, but I've always been a Wisconsin resident, right? And it started to sink in that I'm going to have an Illinois license plate, and I am not happy with that. Yeah, yeah, boo.
Oh, I hope you're not offending any of our Illinois listeners, Grace. Yeah.
I know, but as a Wisconsin resident, that's just in my heart. And so I'm sure I'll come to terms with my Illinois license plate. I don't have one yet, so I've got some time to grieve still. But I will be teaching third through eighth science and then seventh grade math. I'm sure over the years there will probably be some tweaks to what that looks like. But yeah, so that'll be fun in a grade school. Wasn't what I pictured, but I think that goes along with what we have as our future doesn't always align with how God sees to use us best. So I think, yeah, one of my takeaways from all of this going into the future is that even if it feels like you're not making an impact, God is using you regardless. And even if your work seems fruitless, it's not worthless. And then, yeah, I need to trust his outcomes and his purposes more than my own designs. So those are my main takeaways.
Awesome. Thank you, Grace. It's been a privilege to serve with you. Calvin.
So last week, oh, I guess it's not last week when this is being made, whatever, recently received a call, my vicar assignment to Mount Horeb, Wisconsin, just west of Madison. So my wife and I are moving out there early August for my vicar year, kind of a pastoral internship year, and then back for one more year in the classroom to finish up the seminary education. So very excited for that. One more summer of just some sort of outdoor whatever job, landscaping kind of thing. Probably the last time I'll ever have some work like that, and then get a real taste of pastoral ministry. Something I'm going to take into that, and I'm sure it'll stick with me when I'm fully assigned in a couple years. It's just the need for clarity when we're speaking and teaching and evangelizing and all of it, preaching. You can say we are saved by Christ alone, and He's our Savior and our leader, and He loves you. And that's all great and true, and it's okay to say that. I'm not saying you can't say that, but it's good to say that. But you need to know what that means, because millions and millions and billions of people would agree with that statement, but have heresy that runs so deep that Christ will say to them, "Depart from me, I do not know you." And that's scary. So to be clear by what we mean and not give false impressions and not use theological speak or theological shorthand, and just meeting people where they're at, using the terms they know and the knowledge they know and building off of that. And anyway, being clear, making sure there no leaven gets into the lump of dough, keeping it pure. All those thoughts for sure.
Beautiful. Thank you. Charlie.
I am headed down to spend the next year in Simpsonville, South Carolina, which is a suburb of Greenville. And one of the first things I noticed is it's about the church itself. If my math is correct, is about 90 minutes from the back or the southern gate to Smoky Mountain National Park, so where I'll be spending my time off. Where to find me? But I think the taking your question was what we're taking from this into our next year. I think for bigger than anything else for me personally is the perspective shift. It being prepared to answer is not the same thing as having all the answers, and it has changed the way I approach like preparation for Bible study and teaching classes. It's changed the way I approach my conversations with people. It's changed the way I even think about my own faith and apologetics and things like that. I used to I would fall into one of two traps. It was either I cannot talk about this authoritatively until I know everything and have done all the research and I'm good to go, and there's nothing you can surprise me with. Or if I can't get to that point, I guess it's just hopeless and I'm gonna wing it and see what happens. And both of those are the wrong approach, and frankly aren't good stewardship of the time and talents and abilities and even wealth and so forth that we've been given. So recognizing that being prepared and to give an answer is far different than having all the answers, and instead inviting people to have a conversation with you and let's sit in these things and think about these things and hold them up to the light of Scripture and the light of truth, and just see, let's test these things. And when we test these things, we will know the truth, and that truth is the most important thing we'll ever have.
Outstanding. I am so excited for each of your new opportunities. I'm going to be a little bit saddened that we will not be podcasting on Wednesday afternoons anymore, but two of you can come back here in a year or so and join us again if you'd like. I just want to express my thankfulness to your faithfulness over the last year. I know that the work has been hard at times, and that it has been intellectually, spiritually, and emotionally stretching. And I hope that that is for not only your good, but for the good of many that have been trapped in the Mormon Church, that God is using your effective witness with. So thank you to you. I'd love to just give you each 30 seconds to say some final thoughts, maybe something to our listening audience or to each other. Just your final thoughts as you're wrapping up your time as interns on the Witnessing Christ podcast. Charlie, we'll let you go first on that one.
You've been given an indescribable gift. You already hold in your hands everything needed so that when the last day comes and you stand before the throne of God and he says, why should I let you into my house? You already have all the righteousness that is required. You already have all the goods. Everything it takes has been gifted to you. You don't have to earn or deserve it. You can't add to it. It's yours already. Now take that and live like it. It doesn't, that's the simple as the Christian faith can get.
Awesome. And go and share that with others. Okay. Calvin.
Yeah, I'd give that encouragement to go and share with others. We're if us four bozos, or I guess five bozos, I'll include pastor with that title. If we can get up here and muster up a decent witnessing conversation and talk with people and have this, I mean, we're not special. We're not sages who are up here with all the answers and all the expertise to do this. We're learning the entire time, and I've made so many mistakes. All of us have. And just an encouragement of it doesn't take a special gene to be up here doing this. Everyone, you're starting from the same place as we did. If you haven't done the please open the door thing, or you haven't reached out to have this kind of witnessing conversation with an LDS friend, great start. That's where all three of us were, four of us were just 8, 9 months ago, whatever it was, when I first did the please open the door thing. And it's scary, it's intimidating, but just yeah, we're not anything special. Go out and do it. It's crazy to look back and see how the Lord has equipped me and strengthened me and grown me in various skills and stuff. And he'll do the same for you. So just that encouragement there.
Great encouragement. Grace?
Yeah, I feel like if you wait until you feel like you're prepared enough or that you have all the answers, then you're never going to feel qualified enough to go out. And as has been said throughout, like all of us have been unprepared at some point. We've all felt not qualified enough and we've all been nervous about going out and doing it. And I hate going in blind. Just as a person, I like being as prepared as possible. I'm a perfectionist in that. But I think one of the things to remember in your witnessing is that asking questions goes a long way. And that if you can just ask people what things mean to them, then you can share what it means to you. And just knowing who you are, know that you were a dead sinner, that you couldn't do anything, that Jesus rescued you, he lived for you. Just know your sin and know your Savior. And at the end of the day, that's mostly just what you need for witnessing.
Wonderful. John gets the final word here.
Well, if I could say one thing to a Christian listening right now who wants to reach more lost intentionally, it would just be that you've come to the right place. There's so many good things going on at Truth and Love Ministry, from the interviews with people who have left the church to just developing and honing these ideas of grace, sin, faith, from going on trips to work on how do I articulate what I believe in. Truth and Love is very, very much exactly what it sets out to be, which is to speak the truth in love and to equip others to do the same. So do what you can to spread this ministry out, share it with friends. There are so many good things going on here that if you want to learn how to reach out to the lost, you've come to the right place.
Awesome. Thank you all once again for the time, the heart, and the soul that you have shared with us this year. Thank you to those listening. Some of you provided financial resources for the interns to do what they did this year. So we're thankful for that. It's been a blessing to them and to the thousands that have been served through them and the resources that they've provided. So boy, it's logging off the last time with these four. I'm getting a little bit emotional here myself. So thank you for being a part of this journey. Thanks for listening. Until next time, go out and speak that truth in love with boldness. Take care and God bless. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Witnessing Christ. Witnessing Christ is a Truth in Love ministry podcast. For more resources, visit tilm.org. If this podcast and other Truth in Love ministry resources have been a blessing to you, consider supporting the mission to proclaim Christ to Mormons and empower Christians to witness by visiting tilm.org/